clay has a very sexual ambivalence. We've been working a lot on the large wall piece, Dancing Twins, that is a centerpiece of the show. And with my studio assistant, Lina Lefebvre, and she actually found the title. We were working like crazy, and we were laughing by the fact that it was almost factory hours, and it was very physical to achieve such large pieces with clay. And we found the title very funny for the show because it was the factory that we were like actually making the work, but it was also the factory of female as a gender. It's a construction. So there's something interesting with this title, that is how the feminine or the masculine is built, how it's a social construction of identity. Well, the movement, it's very different from sculpture, of course. Dance is very different from sculpture. Sculpture is always static, so it's kind of the opposite, right? And of course, a lot of sculptures tried to represent movement in the history of art, of course. We always try to find a highlight or a high point in a story that kind of contains all the previous events, and at the same time it can contain what will happen later. So as a sculptor, you try to find this moment that you can represent, that holds in a way the time before and the time after. So and dance is the extreme fragility of the moment, and so it's a challenging it's a challenge for a sculptor. It's kind of the opposite of what sculpture should be, and so that's why it's exciting. Yeah, I made this sculpture after the birth of my my younger daughter, almost 10 years ago, and showed it in several places many times and never had any problems until last summer, when the summer 1 year ago in Nantes, in a big venue, very famous in France, many visitors. It's called Le Voyage à Nantes, and there the reaction was quite hostile on the social networks and the social medias. Very hostile, quite violent. And then the piece was vandalized for real. So what started in the virtual world then came through the web to the reality, and they vandalized the piece that was, very well restored, and now you cannot see anything from this action. And I think that the reason why the piece was so disturbing for people, it's because it's a feminist manifest. The little girl, the young baby girl that pees in a public space, like does the little boy, the mannequin piece in Brussels, is shocking for some people. Hopefully there are not so many, but they are still very active, and those people cannot stand to see a piece that claims uh, the activism, the activities of women in a public space. Public space does belong to men and women, both of us. All of my work is made with clay. It's really like the material that I use all the time, and I think through this material when I draw. Uh, my drawings are always informed by clay, by this material. So I think I really have now a brain structured by this material. It's been more than 20 years now that I use it. So yeah, it's really the center of my practice. Why this material? Maybe because it's very anthropomorphic. Clay is very close to the body, to the human body. It has a lot of water, like us. It holds fragility, like us, and it's been used by human beings since even before the Neolithic period. So it's a very archaic and sophisticated material as well. You can do it. It can at the same time it looks like shit, and it looks like very very precious porcelain with golden luster. So it can really move and shift from one origin to the most sophisticated. So it's and civilized. So I love this versatility of the material, and I think it's very close to how us as human beings we can behave as civilizations or as individuals. So yeah, this material also gives a lot of freedom. You were asking me about the freedom towards gender issues, and I think, of course, that clay has a very sexual ambivalence. It can also, I mean, if you put a piece of clay erectile, it's a phallus. Or if you put a hole in a piece of clay, then it's a vagina. It's like as simple as that. Clay can really play with those gender representations. So I think that it's a very contemporary material because these issues are at stake in the society today and in the art world as well. Also about other materials, they are kind of peripheric to my practice. I used bronze, aluminum. I used. I'm going to be working on a large subway station artwork in Toulouse with glass. So I use different materials, but it's always peripheric to clay. Clay is the center of my practice. Yes, to me, this show is it was very challenging because I fell in love with with the space when I first visited Berlin, and I really loved the space with the two columns and the large ceiling, and I was really excited to do something to try to reach that level of quality of space. So I really wanted to make something new for this big wall, and so I think that the opportunity to show at SETAREH Gallery in Berlin, it really gave me the confidence to achieve those dancing twins that I think are really like the largest piece I have ever done with ceramics.